I'm not gonna lie. I think we all know and realize that love can make you do some crazy things. Whether it's cheating on your spouse, killing somebody over jealousy, or it's the fact that your insecurities got the best of you. Now, I'm not in a relationship right now, and thank God I'm not because I don't want to get caught up in no baby mama drama. I don't want to get caught up in no teeny scandals, sleeping with somebody's wife, somebody's girlfriend. I don't want to be messing with these 304s in the streets. I'm not about that lifestyle, and y'all already know how I am about that. So shout out to Anna Soft. Credits go to her. Link to the video down below. Let's check it out.
Thing I will never, ever forget in my entire life is watching my daughter DJ scream. This scream I haven't heard from her even as a baby, and fall to the ground
Wow.
in shock and disbelief.
I see you every day and talk to you, like things and everything. And you my arm or anything. It's hard.
Yeah, I know it's hard for me too. It really is.
This is Michaela Costanazzo,
Oh,
or
wow.
Mickey. She was smart, kind, athletic, and very close to her family. She also lived in a small town where everyone felt kids were safe. So when she disappeared, everyone went into a panic. But what the investigation would unearth is far darker than anyone would have imagined. Mickey's death was a story of jealousy, treason, and honestly, all that's wrong with humanity.
Oh,
so
wow.
let's explore her strange disappearance and everything that led to the tragic end of this case. On the evening of March 3rd, 2011, Michaela
Oh, this one was
Costanazzo's
intense.
mom, Celia, was working at the
Decades of
Wendover
murders.
Nugget Casino and was worried sick.
She did not call me to tell me track practice was over and she was getting ready. She didn't call me to tell me she was walking home. And so I started calling her phone. And it rang and rang and rang the first time. And then I called it right back because that was unusual. And it was like you hit the ignore button.
I can think of a few things that went wrong with this part. Where's the father in this? Until if you don't know what's going on with your teenager, you need to make sure that you're checking up on them every day, because sooner or later they're gonna end up murdering somebody, or they're gonna end up getting got themselves. This sounds like straight out of a Lifetime movie.
In West Wendover, Nevada. West Wendover
Of course,
is
it's Las
home to
Vegas.
4,000
The
people.
place
But
with the
just
whole
like
rack
most
of
Nevada
casinos.
towns, it's filled with casinos, steakhouses, and lavish hotels. However, it's a tiny town, and people thought it was perfectly safe. Every day, Mickey would go to track practice after her usual classes. Then she would clean around and go home. This was the first time Mickey didn't have a ride home. Usually, her older sister Christina or her husband would pick her up and drive her home. This time, they were out of town in Las Vegas. However, it was just 1 mile to her home, and Mickey figured she could just walk.
It was the first time I left her.
Even though she knew she was in Vegas, Celia called Christina, hoping she'd spoken to Mickey earlier that day.
And I said, Mom, she's probably at practice. And she says, no, practice, they ended and she's not home. And I said, calm down, you're probably just missing her.
Christina was even low-key
Nah, ain't no
hoping
calming
Mickey
down.
was finally turning into a teenager. You see, Mickey was unusually close to her mom. She would notify her of anything, from having eaten to arriving home and going upstairs. This explains why her mom was so worried as soon as she didn't pick up the phone or come home without a call beforehand. And as the hours passed, Christina started getting worried too. Mickey wouldn't answer the phone to anyone. Christina notified her mom, and Celia asked her manager to leave work early. She was hoping to find Mickey home, but when she arrived, it was just DJ, the middle sister.
When my mom came
The
in,
middle sister.
she said, Nikki's not here. Where is she? Because this isn't funny. So I immediately went out and searched for her. Called her friends, called my friends. If you hear from Nikki, you need to tell me.
Like I said before, this sounds straight out of a Lifetime movie. Because Christina is not the type of person that would just go off in the middle of the night without telling anybody. But it just seems like teenagers always run away from home or they're doing some strange activities without anybody knowing what's going on with them. And it just seems like to me, I think Mickey were like very close with her mother, and I'm assuming that the dad is not in the picture. Again, we really don't know what's going on. I'm just reacting to the video so that I can get some clues as to what happened.
Everything together and stayed in contact almost 24/7.
I consider us twins. Everything we did, we had to be together. If we weren't at the same place,
Not
we
really mean y'all
had
look
to
similar,
know
but you don't look like twins to
where the
me.
other was at all times.
DJ rallied up everyone she knew to help find Mickey. She could not bear the thought of not knowing where her sister was. By the time Celia called the police, 80 people were searching for Mickey throughout West Wendover. When Detective Donald Burnham spoke to Celia, he found out that none of Mickey's friends knew where she was.
Waiting. The longer you wait, the bigger problem you have, and the harder it's going to be to find them.
But the evening came to an end, and there was no sign of her in West Wendover. The desert around the town was vast. This search could take days. So until then, the detectives went another way too. They checked Michaela's phone records to see if any clue popped up, and it did. Her last phone calls and messages were to her childhood buddy, Cody, not her boyfriend Javier, and not her family. What was up with that?
We didn't know whether she'd met with foul play or if she was restrained and held somewhere against her will. It was obvious we had more than just a runaway juvenile, but we just didn't know how far that it had.
Remember in the beginning of my video when I said that love can make you do crazy things? This is one of them. This is going to get interesting.
Wish her harm. By the morning of March 4th, all television programs in Nevada were covering Mickey's disappearance. The detectives contacted everyone in Mickey's inner circle and brought them into the station for questioning. The first person they invited was Mickey's boyfriend, Javier.
How's she been acting like?
You look crazy on or what?
Pretty fine. Like, if something was wrong, she'd vent. She's not one of those girls that hides her feelings, like puts her emotions in her.
Javier didn't seem to know anything about Mickey's phone calls to another number
that's
or
good to know.
any odd thing that might have happened recently. So the police decided to let him go. Clearly, the detectives also had to speak to the boy Michaela was in contact with just before she disappeared.
There was a lot of text and phone calls transpiring just immediately after school and up till just after 5.
And then they stopped.
Abruptly stopped right at the time that she had left the school.
The police invited Cody Patton to the station for an interview. They were pretty sure he was the last person who spoke to Mickey.
The last time you seen her was
About 5:30.
and that was where?
At Park School.
She was with somebody?
You look like one of those older guys in his early 20s that is dating a high school girl. You could tell something is very suspicious about this cat. Like he knows something.
Her boyfriend being Javier.
Yeah.
Cody seemed exhausted and even depressed, but this was normal, thought the detectives.
he had
After
something.
all, one of his best friends was missing, and he was probably worried sick like the rest of them. Cody and Mickey were
You
neighbors
sure?
when they were just kindergarten age. Their families were close, and so the kids got close. Cody was 1 year older than Michaela, and the two formed a close friendship that lasted all the way to high school.
They grew up together. They were friends.
Did they ever date, Michaela and
No.
Cody?
Michaela was not allowed to date till she was 16, but I'm sure it was probably like puppy love, what I call puppy love.
Cody was 6'8",
Wow.
a giant, rowdy kid with
Dang,
lots of
they the
energy
tallest
and
on
a
or what?
passion for
6'8"?
football. Mickey was athletic too.
You ought to
She
be a
was born in
wrestler.
1994, the youngest of 3 sisters. But according to
Oh,
her
she the
family,
youngest. She
she
the
was the
baby.
most mature, level-headed, and focused on her goals.
She was the one out of all 3 of us girls that I say was just going down the path you would want any child to go down. She was doing it the right way, stereotypically.
She was always full of
What you mean
energy, and she
stereotypically?
put this into sports as
That don't
well as
sound right.
friends.
She just had a different approach to life. She found the good in everything and everybody.
In short, she was the perfect high school sweetheart. But Cody wasn't in love with her. In fact, he was engaged to another girl, which was pretty strange to
I mean, I told y'all something was weird about this cat. 6'8", dating a high school girl, even though he wasn't in love with her, but he was engaged with somebody else. Like the dude looks like he's in his 20s. Something's off about the story. I'm telling y'all.
Classic high school jock. But he would tell everyone he was in a committed relationship with Tony Fratto. Tony was in many ways the opposite of Mickey.
She was a very shy, withdrawn girl, very intelligent, very diligent in her work.
Cody's friends didn't understand what caused the fatal attraction between the two. Others want to fool around for a while. But Tony, she seemed very intense. At least when it came to Cody, Tony was dead serious.
She put all her cards into Cody.
But this wasn't love anymore. Tony was obsessed with Cody. And you know how obsession tends to turn into possessive and all kinds of pain.
Oh,
and
hell
suffering.
no.
One day, Tony barged into her family home and almost tore down the door as she screamed for her parents to come downstairs. They rushed down, worried. Tony was almost hysterical. It sounded like she was in a panic, but she was just ecstatic. She wanted to let her parents know that she and Cody were going to get married. Cody had proposed to her the day before.
Man, this is kind of like a red flag because she's barging in the family's house, calling all her parents like that, screaming and carrying on, thinking that somebody died or something, just to tell them that she's going to get married. And this weird-looking fella right here is just smiling and carrying on. Nah, Mom, something ain't right about the story.
Tony's parents didn't like that one
I bet
bit.
they didn't.
Cody
I
had
don't
a
like it either.
reputation
This is
for
kind of weird.
having problems throughout his life with anger.
Still so young. What if they elope?
One day, he'd be sweet and attentive and a good student, and the next, a holy terror.
Tony's parents knew he was a volatile person and an immature kid. Tony herself was a kid, also 17 years old, so they were deeply worried about this engagement. But how can you stand in the way of a static teenage infatuation? Also, Tony came from a Mormon family, so there was a general tendency to marry early. Perhaps it was Tony's family that imbued her with the notion that she should get married to whoever she falls in love with. Tony's parents weren't too excited about Cody, but they wanted to keep their daughter happy, and they were pro-marriage. So they said okay, and they invited Cody to move in with them. In fact, they even invited him to convert to their religion as a sort of vow to stay loyal to Tony.
They're very good people, and I believe that they thought they could help him with being a constructive family.
One could argue inviting Cody into their home like that was also a way to keep a closer eye on him.
I don't like that. You moving in somebody who has a problem with anger issues into your house, knowing full well that somebody is going to end up getting their life taken away. I'm not making this shit up when I say this, because when you move someone who is that obsessed, that has issues like that, somebody in your family is going to end up dying.
His second family, and more importantly, we were really invested in his success.
Every adult around this couple was preoccupied with Cody's behavior and worried about how it might influence Tony. But no one ever suspected it was the other way around. Cody, Tony, and Mickey went to the same high school. And even though they were in different year groups, Cody and Mickey still hung out, especially in athletic contexts. Whether they were passing a ball around or running around outdoors, the childhood buddies had a love for sports that still kept them close. Tony hated this. In fact, she'd gone as far as not allowing Cody to spend time with Mickey. Mickey was pretty, athletic, and popular in school. Tony felt the opposite of that. It wasn't even competition.
You know, it seems like they playing this stereotypical, hi, I'm a good girl type of person. Everybody sees me as this bright young lady, but they don't know the dark side of me when I'm dating someone who is just as toxic as me. All it is just jealousy. That's all this is. It's jealousy.
Spend many nights worrying about Mickey in her diary.
Tony's diaries revealed what she was really feeling and thinking. That Cody was eventually going to leave her for another woman.
It really shows that Tony didn't have much self-worth. She had low self-esteem. And that comes out in many different ways.
One of these ways was the constant thought that Cody would leave her for Mickey. Cody could say 1,000 things, He'd known Mickey since kindergarten. If nothing happened until he met Tony, nothing would now. But Tony wouldn't believe him. She'd already gotten it into her mind that Cody would leave her for someone else, and Mickey was right there. Slowly, she started acting out on her hatred too.
There's one day when Tony is giving Mickey a real hard time, you know, bullying her, calling her names.
For months, Tony called Mickey the worst names you could call a girl. Mickey even complained to her sisters about it. She hated the drama, and she didn't understand why no one cared that she had a boyfriend too. Mickey was happy with Javier. Wasn't this a clear enough message that she wasn't interested in Cody? But Tony was on a fierce mission to remove her from Cody's life. Then, something really disturbing happened while Mickey was chilling in the schoolyard.
Cody had a box cutter in Michaela's arm and thought it was somewhat funny and laughed about it.
It wasn't funny at all for Mickey. Why would your best bud hurt you for a laugh? After this, she decided to cut off all contact with Cody. He wasn't worth the friendship.
Like I said in the beginning of the video, love can make you do crazy things. And this is one of them. You're dating somebody who was just as crazy as you are. All of a sudden, you're turning into this psychomaniac, try to kill your own best friend because what? Out of jealousy? Nah, this shit don't feel right to me. If you have a problem with me, you come to me as a person. Do not bring any type of weapons. Because if you threaten to harm me, you know, threaten to kill me, I'm into that relationship. I'm into that friendship right there. You ain't my friend, because if you were really my friend, you wouldn't be doing all of this. You dating somebody who is just as retarded as you are.
Wanted to stay away, Cody didn't want to lose his friendship. He didn't want to lose his fiance either. What followed was simply shocking. When the detective spoke to Cody for the first time, they asked him why there had been so many calls to and from Mickey just before her disappearance. He said he needed her help with moving some car parts. He didn't go into detail about each and every phone call, and the detectives seemed okay with his answer. Meanwhile, the Castanazzo family was getting restless. Celia was pretty sure the police weren't going to find Mickey. They had to take matters into their own hands.
I went to my mom's house. And I told her that I was going to go find my sister. Even though she's not okay, I will bring her home.
I wouldn't.
And for whatever reason, in my mind, at that point, I knew that I was going to find her, and I wasn't going to find her the way we wanted to, but that I was going to bring her home.
Christina had just gotten back from Las Vegas when she hopped in her car again and drove around West Wendover, looking for any weird amount of dirt. She decided she would have a look at the gravel pits, a deserted area next to the town. Unknowingly, she drove inches from her sister's body, but it was dark, and she couldn't see the fresh tire tracks leading into the desert. It was the next morning that a volunteer searcher saw them and followed them.
He stated he seen some sagebrush that appeared to have been disturbed and was covering some ground. So he looked underneath the sagebrush and saw what he thought appeared to be.
You know, if she would have came back early from Vegas during the daytime, I'm sure she would have found her sister. But it's the fact that she was doing it in the darkest hour while it was pitch black outside. You couldn't see nothing. That's a scary thought. Whew. Bro, life is not a game, bro.
So the detectives rushed over to the gravel pits and filmed their search. Within an hour, they discovered Mickey's body, hidden in a very shallow grave. It was dumped there, almost as a way to humiliate her one last time.
Shallow grave was discovered, the contents of which are unknown.
Just as they were sealing the crime scene, Christina drove by. She was still searching for her sister.
Just felt like your heart sink. I saw the unmarked police car driving on the gravel pit road that I was on the night before. And it just sank.
As if this experience wasn't grueling enough, Christina had to wait another 12 hours for a forensics team to arrive from Reno and confirm Mickey's identity. 4 days after Mickey's disappearance, her death was made public, but the brutality of her murder would not be televised. She'd been stabbed dozens of times in her face and neck. She'd been beaten with a shovel. Her head was all but smashed in. Her neck was so violently, she'd almost
God.
been decapitated. To see a young girl like this was heart-wrenching, even for some of the most seasoned detectives.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about this because the worst type of nightmares you could ever face and deal with is getting that police phone call from them about your loved one. Of the body was being found somewhere in your hometown. I've lost so many people in my life due to the fact that their bodies were found. I know from this horrific experience firsthand, this is not a joke, y'all. They killed this girl because of jealousy. She must have felt that Mickey was into him. That's all this is jealousy. And the fact that the sister found out in the most horrific way possible, I felt that type of emotions in my heart mentally and physically because I know what it's like to lose a loved one. Come to find out someone did the unthinkable because of unknown reasons or stupid reasons for that matter. And they clearly knew exactly what they were doing. So this is nowhere, shape, or form an accident. This is a real deal. They wanted to kill this girl for a long time. And they got their wish. This shit sucks, man. Like, I hate to see someone finding out about their loved ones, finding their bodies in a garage or in the river or the lake. I don't like that feeling one bit. My God.
And the brutality, I guess disturbing would be the word.
And imagine
I bet it was
having
disturbing.
to deliver this news to her family.
The one thing I will never, ever forget in my entire life is watching my daughter DJ scream. The scream I haven't heard from her even as a baby, and fall to the ground in shock and disbelief. She physically did what I felt like I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it because I'm the mom. I had to keep myself together. I had to be the strong one.
Mickey's mom appeared on TV with a heartbreaking plea.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, this is not over yet until the person or persons responsible are brought to justice.
But the police seemed to want to close the case. They'd spoken to everyone in Mickey's circle, and the stories corroborated. They'd last seen Mickey at school around 5 p.m. before heading home. So the detectives thought a stranger had taken Mickey on her walk back home. They only had one clue, a zip tie found on Mickey's wrist. That meant she'd been restrained and kidnapped. Then there was a small breakthrough. The police looked at the school's CCTV footage from March 3rd. Here's Mickey, and here's Cody. And remember how Cody
What'd I tell y'all? Y'all see something wrong with this nigga? I told you. And I told you. He looked older. He looked weird. He looked like something was wrong with him. I told y'all. And I told y'all. He had something to do with her death. He finna get his today. I was right about something from the moment I saw this dude.
Well, he was certainly misleading them. As the detectives did a little digging on Cody, they found out about his hot temper and volatile personality. They also found out he didn't just move in with his fiancée out of love. He had a really bad relationship with his father, Kip. And it was his angry father that brought him into the police station the second time. He reiterated that Mickey helped him move some car parts, but he said he saw her leave out the front door.
Okay, so what are you getting at?
What I'm getting at is you're not being totally truthful with us.
He's not.
No, you're not.
When the detective showed him the CCTV footage,
You know, this is one of those moments where I can't trust nobody around my family. I don't care if you're going through some things or not in life. you can keep that stuff somewhere else. Don't bring it here. And with Cody, that's not love. If you love somebody, you wouldn't be murdering someone. If you love somebody, you wouldn't be murdering your best friend just because you have problems just like your father. And I blame the father on this as well because he's the one that has anger issues. He's the one that has most of the problems that contributed into Cody's future. And we've seen that right now.
I don't think you planned on it. I don't think you intended to.
I didn't do anything.
And when they left him alone with his father, he cried and told him everything. That's when Kip encouraged him to confess.
You gotta start fixing this now. As much as you can. What you did is heinous, Cody.
You can hear the emotional pain in his voice.
You at all. Okay? You gotta do what's right. Game as well.
Cody proceeded to tell a bogus story about how Michaela asked him to dump Tony and date her instead. When Cody refused, Mickey started attacking him. They stopped the car, wrestled outside, and she hit her head. Yeah.
I don't believe that.
That explained all the gruesome injuries. Cody was arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
Yeah,
from prison
as he should.
and awaiting his trial, Cody hired an attorney, John Olson. John and everyone who knew Cody said the same thing. Someone made him do it, but he was staying silent. However, he would talk to Tony from prison every day, and the police would record their intense conversations.
Not see you every day and talk to you, like, these things and everything. And holding you in my arms and anything, it's just hard.
Yeah, I know it's hard for me too.
Wow, both of them are in it
At
together.
first, it was just milk and honey. But you know what was truly strange?
No, it wasn't no
she
milk
was
and
the
honey.
only one
It
who
was
wasn't
all burning
asking
bridges.
Cody why he'd killed Mickey. John Olson also told the police he believed whoever caused Mickey those gruesome injuries had a lot of rage towards her. That couldn't be Cody. So, the police invited Tony in for questioning. That's when they noticed Tony was completely emotionless. She was also avoiding contact with Mickey's family and friends. In April 2011, Tony's parents were out of town for the weekend, so she called Kip to drive her to the police station. She was wearing her pajamas. She knew she wouldn't be needing her clothes anymore. Tony had called Kip that morning.
After Cody was arrested, Tony was speaking with his father and told him that she was present when Michaela was murdered. Cody's father didn't even wait for her to get dressed. In her pajamas, he drove her to Cody's lawyer's office.
Tony told a whole other story. After school, she received a text from Cody with the words, "I've got her." Cody had Mickey in his SUV and he was going to pick her up from home. The three went to the gravel pits. After they got out of the car, Mickey began yelling at Cody and pushed him. Tony was looking somewhere when she heard a loud thud. Then she saw Mickey lying semi-conscious on the ground. But as Cody was digging her grave, Mickey came back to life. So they both kicked and punched and beat her with a shovel. Then they took turns slitting her throat before throwing her into the grave.
God.
Tony wasn't Olson's client, so he immediately turned the tape over to the police. That day, she was arrested, charged with murder, and held without bail. Here's where Tony becomes a truly gross character. You know how she claimed Cody was her entire life and she loved him no matter what and she would always be faithful to him? As soon as she was offered a plea deal for second-degree murder, she agreed to testify against him. So much for everlasting love. Now, she said Cody was angry.
Yo, this has got to be the cappest story from their part. So, even though she took the plea deal, she was going to testify against him and try to lie on him, even though both of them were in on it together.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
Like I said, love can make you do crazy things. It don't matter what type of love is, it's all the way nuts.
So when he picked her up, she was surprised to see Mickey stuffed in the back of the SUV. They drove to the desert, and Cody ordered Tony to stand guard as he killed his friend. She even said Cody wanted her to hit Mickey, and she refused. She sealed the story with one last horrible detail. At one point during the attack, Mickey looked up at Cody and asked if she was still alive. She wanted to go home, so Cody just took a knife and cut her throat. For this bogus story, Tony was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 18 years. Now, Cody had to defend his side of the story. He said Tony wanted Mickey out of Cody's life for a long time. That day, the three met up to fight it out at Tony's suggestion. Cody kidnapped Mickey as she was now avoiding him after the box cutter incident. But it was Tony who carried out the frenzied attack and killed her. In May 2012, Cody Patton pled guilty to first-degree murder in order to avoid the death penalty. Even though he explained that Tony was the one to cut Mickey's throat, the judge didn't care. He sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He commented,
there you go.
"Your blood runs cold, Mr. Patton. There shall be no possibility of parole." From prison,
that's real
the happy
justice right
couple
there. That's what's
continued
up.
to throw dirt at each violent Cody, and that she was forced to participate in Mickey's murder. She'd once confessed to cutting Mickey's throat. Then her stories got lighter and lighter, eventually painting herself as a victim. Don't know how to tell you, Tony, but you're not the victim in this situation.
At all.
Mickey's death
At all.
was a direct result of your insecurities, jealousy, rage, and evil. People who saw her at the trial noticed there wasn't
saw
a
right
tear
through her.
of remorse or guilt on her face. She never offered an apology
Look at
or
that.
showed any
Just
shame.
ice cold
And a
stare
final
and no remorse
tragic
at
twist.
all.
At the time of Mickey's murder, Cody was cheating on Tony, just not with Mickey. He was having an affair with an adult woman. She'd lent him the SUV he used to kidnap Mickey. Mickey's family got the justice
Adult
they
manipulation.
could, but there's little justice the law can bring.
Hey man, look. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family, even though this was like back in 2011 and 2012. This is like a decade ago. It still feels so surreal to me that Tony was so busy trying to come up with so many stories, knowing that she was the one that did the most damage. Her and Chris, or whatever his name is, I forgot his last name, but I don't care. It just seems like his side of the family is way more disturbing because his father has some anger issues, and that contribute to him as he got older. But Tony, on the other hand, she felt the need to take out a person's life because of jealousy and insecurities. But Mickey, man, she was just an innocent girl. She was an innocent girl that got her life cut short over some silly bullshit that I've seen every day on social media and on the media. But at the end of the day, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. I know they were really close with her. She was beloved by everybody because I know what it's like. That's why I got a little bit of emotional on the inside, because the thought of getting a disturbing phone call from a police officer about your loved one, when it comes to their bodies being found, oh, that would be a worse. That would be a worse to ever experience. Link to the video will be down below. Shout out to Anna Sauce. All credits go to her, like I said in the beginning of the video. Yeah, tell me what y'all thoughts on the chat. I'm gonna catch you on my next one.